That's for sure. Hey there, everyone. It's Lisa with Are You My Cousin? And it's Thursday afternoon, so we are going to chat genealogy again. And as you can see, I have my friend Mary Eberle here from DNA Hunters. Hey, Mary, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Lisa?
I am doing well. I am doing well. As you come in, feel free to let us know where you are watching from because one, I love maps. I like to see where people are from. We're genealogists, right? It also lets me know that you can hear and see everything just fine. We are live streaming both on YouTube and Facebook. So it does let me know both places are working just fine. So as you're coming in, a couple of things just to kind of keep you updated in the loop here. If you haven't met me before, I am Lisa Listen. I do have the website and YouTube channel, Are You My Cousin? And what my goal is really to help you find your ancestors. I don't want you to be overwhelmed in that process. I want you to be able to find them, grow that family tree, but enjoy the process along the way. Is it always easy? Oh, no, not at all. Right. Hey, Joyce in Mississippi and Crystal's from Florida. Wonderful, wonderful. Is anybody seeing, are you guys, well, probably in Florida and Mississippi, I doubt you're seeing some of the smoke that has been trickling down and coming out of the Canadian out of Canada. I know we have been seeing it this far. I am in North Carolina, so we've been inside a little bit more the last few days. So hope that's everybody's doing well in regards to all of that. Hey, Bonnie, it's good to see you from Minnesota. Yay, wonderful. So glad to have you guys here. So Are You My Cousin? It's been lots of fun going on around here. I'm actually kind of entering a quiet mode here for the summertime, but I do have a couple big things. Certainly we do have the cruise that is going to be happening next April. So yeah, we're looking way ahead, April 27th through May 5th of 2024. So you can find all of the information about that over on the website, but really big here in the next week. And if you are watching this on the replay, this is time sensitive. Through the 14th, June 14th, 2023, MyHeritage is offering a 50% off complete plan to Are You My Cousin followers. So I will put the link in the comments below. I'll also have it in the description below for YouTube. But that is time sensitive. It is only through the June 14th. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. You can also see it if you get my emails, you'll have access to it in the emails as well. So let's see who else is here. Hey, June. June says she's refreshed to get chat from working overcast New Hampshire. Yes, it's been quite overcast here as well. But the rain took your smoke away. That's good. That's good. Hey, Pat, good to see you as well. Hey, Dee from Wisconsin. So yeah, we're kind of all over today. All right. So we are today here to talk more about genealogy, of course, DNA, because as you know, I have my trusty DNA friend with me, Mary. I don't do DNA lightly. I don't do it without her, that's for sure. And so we did last month, we had a Q&A and the guys had so many questions that we needed to do it again this month to finish off those questions that people had sent in. And thank you for those of you who pre-submitted questions. So we are actually going to finish answering those questions that we didn't get to last month. So I hope you were able to join us again. If not, I hope you're able to catch it on the replay and answer a few more that were submitted. And then if time will allow, though it's going to be tight, we can answer, if there's any time left, extra questions that are left over from you guys in the chat. But would love for you guys to kind of get a chance to hear Mary answer questions, see how her process and how she works. So anyway, all right. Thank you so much, Mary, again for joining us. And I don't want to take up too much time. I want to get right to it because we have so many questions. So would love for you to get started. Anything you want to say, or you want me to just go ahead and pull up that first question?
Just thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Thanks everyone for joining us. Yeah, we've got some great questions.
We do. And I always learn so much from Mary, guys. I love having her here because I learn just as much. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pop up the first question. There we go.
Okay. So it is, can a DNA test result help you locate possible family members when you have been adopted with a name change and the only information you have is that you were born in jail? And the person submitting the question said she was asking for her neighbor, who's very interested in finding out more about his birth family. And I would say that in most instances, this is just like any other adoption situation where you may or may not have information about the birth parents or the birth location, and that DNA can lead to the birth parents. And that is especially true if you're from Northwestern European heritage, just because that's the predominant population that's in the databases at places like Ancestry and 23andMe, Family Tree DNA, and MyHeritage. And figuring out birth parents requires good matches who have good trees. And in most instances, good matches would be like a second cousin match. And the trees, hopefully there are some trees there. But if there aren't good trees, you can also build trees for your matches. You would do that in your account. And, having that extra fact about being born in a jail might be helpful because maybe you've narrowed things down to a set of siblings and one of them lives in a town where there is a jail and the rest of them don't. That might help you narrow things down. If you are not of Northwestern European heritage, so things like Eastern European, African, or Asian, then it's more difficult just because not as many people have tested from those backgrounds. And that means that your matches might be far more distant. I know I worked on a case recently where the person was looking for the birth father and the birth mother was from present day Poland. And the closest matches on that side were like 35 centimorgans. And that would make it very, very difficult to find out more about the birth mother. But luckily, that was not the person she was researching. They knew who the mother was, but if she said to me, could you please build that tree back further in time? I would say, maybe, but it's going to be really, really tough, just because those matches are so distant. So.
Sounds good. And I did put a link in the comments, guys, to the video that Mary did. She actually did a video on building out family trees for your matches who don't have trees. So it's actually over on my website. So I put that link in the chat for you guys. All right, here's our next question.
Okay, what is the best way to get DNA testing done for a deceased person for whom we have several possessions, like clothes, shoes, and other things? Not sure exactly what else we'll be getting. So this question comes up quite a bit, where somebody's parent or grandparent is deceased and they want to do DNA testing for that person. And one thing I always point out is that if it's your parent, then half of your DNA is from that parent. And if you did DNA testing, you would see that half. And if you had other siblings from that parent, you would see their half, which is going to overlap with yours, but be different, and so on. So if you and a bunch of siblings could test, or just you could test, you would see the person, the deceased parent, within yourself. And in contrast, there are companies that will try to extract DNA from things such as clothing or cups or whatever. Dentures is another common one. Oh. And it is very expensive and they don't always succeed. So the last time I looked into this, it was something like $1,000 for the DNA work. I'm not sure if that's just the extraction or if that also includes the DNA test. And then, they only are successful in the minority of the times.
Wow.
So it's a very big gamble. And, maybe things are a little bit better today. We've got a lot of things, DNA extractions done forensically for crimes. Mm-hmm. And that technology definitely has improved greatly. But just be careful, because I think that there could be companies that are, making promises that they can't deliver on.
That's interesting. Yeah, I definitely have that question. I see that, and I've wondered about that over the years. I certainly, like many of you guys, have a lot of different articles. I have clothing, I have stamps, letters, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a good thing. I didn't. Thanks for the update, though. I had no idea really where it was, or kind of what. I hadn't looked at it in quite a while. So that's good to know. That's good to know. All right, let's see. Let me grab the next one. Here we go.
Okay. I have ancestors on multiple lines. The DNA site thinks people are more closely related than what they are. Second cousins who should be third cousins, for example. Is this because our multiple common ancestors, because of those multiple common ancestors? And how much can this skew things? So this is a situation where people are related multiple ways, and that definitely can skew things. There have been scientific papers and genealogical papers that have quantified this, but there are, I don't remember the statistics from them, but definitely if you've got somebody who's a match to you who matches on your mom's side, but it's your, person is your third cousin on one line and a third cousin on another line and a fourth cousin on yet another line. And some people, it's like 12 different lines that they're related on. And then all those pieces of DNA that you share from those different relationships, when you add them up, it can look like something like a second cousin. Mm-hmm. Because we predict relationships based on how much DNA is shared, and those tools that do those predictions, they assume you're only related one way. So there are ways to address this, and they involve looking at specific matches. And sometimes people only look at matches that have at least a segment of a certain size. And you would be able to tell that from the DNA testing companies, except for Ancestry, because Ancestry tells you, they might tell you the largest segment, but the best they do is they tell you how much DNA is shared and how many segments. And with that, you can calculate the average segment size. And depending upon the population that you're talking about, so for example, Jewish people have this phenomenon occurring called endogamy, but so do people like in New Mexico, where there were a small number of founding families, and people are related on multiple lines, or the Cajuns in Louisiana. You've got a different amount of multiple sharing. So the one project I worked on, I looked at the average segment size, and I decided that just from what I could see that like some people, the average was around 20, some it was around 19, and some it was 18 or below. And I scored those, green, yellow, red, and I started looking at the greens. And so I was able to find the matches that overall had an average segment size that was about 20, and those people should be more closely related, because with every generation you get recombination, and that breaks up the DNA into smaller and smaller pieces. So if somebody really is your second cousin, those segments are going to be bigger, as opposed to, a bunch of more distant relationships where the pieces get to be small. Mm-hmm. And I guess lastly, I would refer you to Leah LaPearl Larkin, who comes from an endogamous community. Her mother is Cajun, and she's done quite a bit on this topic, which the topic being endogamy. And also Kitty Cooper. Kitty Cooper has written quite a bit about endogamy and given some guidelines and talks about, average segment size, or looking for only at matches who share at least, let's just say, a 25 centimorgan segment with you.
Oh, sorry, I was just pulling up Leia's information, but
sure.
I can go ahead and give you, I'll go ahead and put up the next question while I look for that on the background, guys. I'll add that to the list. Let me see if I can find the right. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Who is my mother's biological father? I tested on Ancestry and MyHeritage, but cannot find any close relatives that I can't identify. My mother has passed away. My sister has tested, but no results. So this goes back to, if you're from a population, and if this person in particular comes from a Northwestern European heritage, and they're not a recent immigrant, because that's another factor that can lead to not having a lot of matches. I'm going to give you advice, but I think you've already done it, which is going through your match list and your sisters and identifying everybody that you can. And then from there, you've got the matches that you can't attribute to somebody, and see if you can figure out how those people are related, and if those people are from this missing grandfather. It's also possible to include ethnicity estimates that you and your sister have, and then you would, I think, be able to predict what your mother would have. So let's say, you show up, ideally, a big number, like let's just say 48% Irish, and your mother's not Irish, then you're looking for somebody of Irish descent, probably somebody who's 100%. It would be 25. A missing grandparent would be 25%. So if you had a clean 25% of an ethnicity that you could not attribute to another grandparent, so one of your other three grandparents, then that can help you as a clue. I would also recommend transferring your results into family tree DNA, just because you never know where those matches are going to be, and then testing at 23andMe. And that's because the more places you test, the more matches you will have, and there's an increased chance of finding that person. And the other possibility is that this grandparent comes from a community where people are intermarrying, and therefore the DNA matches that are attributed to him are also showing up as being attributed to another grandparent. So a lot of people, like in the colonial U.S., will have this happening where, kind of maybe all of their ancestors come from the same area, and it's really hard to pull out, which matches are from which grandparent.
Sounds good. Yep. All right. Next up. Oh, there it goes. Oh, yeah, there it goes.
Okay. My husband and I have had our DNA tested on Ancestry. I manage his. I get updates when I have a new match. Neither he nor I get updates on his matches, and they're wondering why. And this goes back to the settings that you have set up on Ancestry. I don't get any notices when I or anybody's DNA that I manage on Ancestry have new matches. So I think there must be a way to change that. And if you can't find it by looking at the Ancestry website, I would give them a call and ask them what's going on.
Yeah, I get the email notifications. So I think it had to do with, the setting could be it may be in the DNA part. I guess it could be in the main account settings would be where you'd find that under preferences type things. So yeah, I have a question there, Mary, about those those things to follow. Is that so? Like, I get matches of new notifications of new matches, but a lot of times I'm just getting a notification of a match, but it's somebody that I matched with like 3 years ago that I've known about, that's been well known. I love it when they go, "We have a new match for you," and it's my daughter. I'm like, "Well, yes, I and I actually manage it." Is that just part of their marketing thing, or is there anything back there? I don't know if you've noticed that, but
I don't have any idea about that.
no, I get my hopes up and then they get crushed. I'm like, "Oh, is this the new match? Is this the one?" And then like, oh.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Let me find the next one. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so this person has a female DNA match on 23andMe. The X chromosome is shaded gray. I know this match and I are related through my father's great-grandfather. What does the X chromosome indicate? Okay, and I'm going to do a screen share because this question initially was confusing because I thought she was saying that
okay, yeah, I haven't. Oh, okay, so I haven't anything show up yet here on my end. Oh, there we go.
Okay. At first, I thought she was saying that the X chromosome was shaded gray where they were sharing DNA. And I went into my own results, and this is my X chromosome with 2 different matches on it. On the bottom, we've got this orange segment, and that is somebody that does share X DNA with me. And this top one is somebody that does not. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, and she's saying that the X is just grayed, then that means that you don't share any X DNA with her. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
And the question said, this person is my father, a match to me on my father's my paternal great-grandfather's line. And I don't know if that is her father's 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 line. If that is true, then you would not expect any X DNA matches to come through that line because the men pass the Y chromosome down to their sons. And that means it's the Y instead of the X. So there's no X DNA that's attributable to that line. But it could also be a great-grandfather on her dad's side that's, let's say, her dad's mother's father. You can get to great-grandfather through different paths. And I do have a diagram that I wanted to share with you that shows the different routes, and it's through a pedigree view, the different routes that X DNA can be passed. And Lisa's going to share the link. I don't think I have that on a screen share, but it's got one for women and one for men. So you can, if you're a woman, you can go to that part of the diagram, and then whatever is highlighted in color, either pink or blue, those ancestors can pass X DNA to you.
And I put the link in the comments for you guys as well. Okay. So, and if you're watching a replay on YouTube, it'll be in the description.
Thank you. And maybe I wonder if I bring it up and then I screen share, should I do that?
You can try it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to screen share.
Okay.
Present screen. Okay.
Aha.
Is that good? So the link will bring you to this page of my website. And then down here, the xDNA inheritance. This is the diagram I was talking about. So if we go down to this is for women. And as I was saying, you would not get xDNA from your father's father. So all of these are grayed out. But you do get xDNA from your father's mother, and she would get it from both of her parents. And then at this next generation, we only have 3 out of the 4 ancestors highlighted, because this would have been the father's father, and that xDNA does not travel through that path because a Y chromosome is being inherited. So if you want to go and print that out, it's a nice visual so that you can see which ancestors you can inherit xDNA from.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great visual. I found that one very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So
let's find the next question. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Oh,
all right. I'm back.
Okay, I was like, I didn't mean to go so quick.
I was off to the old shared page. Okay. Question: what is the best free, safe site to join? And I want to stop there and say safe. We've talked about privacy in the past. I think that's what's being addressed here. And if you're online, you're trackable. I'm not sure what is a safe place, other than the cabin in the woods without a cell phone. Don't take your cell phone if you're trying to go off the grid. So free. So let's focus just on free, because that's, I can tell you which sites are free. And the person wants to know if your ancestors said they were from Austria, to find relatives, Polish and German also, to try to find missing great-grand links. FamilySearch.org is free, and I think it's pretty good for finding peoples of these places. MyHeritage is not free, but sometimes you can kind of get a hint at, like if you do a Google search, you can sometimes get a hint at what's out there. And then you might decide, well, I should subscribe because it looks like they've got some good records.
You can get a deal on it right now through my website. Just saying.
Yep. And then I suppose there's Genie, right? Genie.com.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times I'm doing a Google search, and then that is sending me to these specific places. Are there others that I'm missing?
I mean, there's, I guess, WikiTree. You could pick up some clues there. You have to be careful though if you're looking at this. If you're looking at trees as opposed to records on some of these free sites, because they tend to be one world tree type things, and so they're not always 100% accurate. So you've just got to be careful that you're using them as a jumping off point sometimes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Family Search, you can search for people under the tree category, but then you can also see what documents have been used to support the tree, which I think is really nice.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Next up.
Okay, the question is, could I find out who my 5th great-grandfather was? And I would give the lawyer answer, which is, it depends. If it's on your father's 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 line, or if there's somebody out there who is on that direct male line, you could use Y-DNA to help you figure that out. Let's say you are, questioning whether person A or person B is your 5th great-grandfather, and you do the Y-DNA testing, that might shed light on the correctness of one person versus another. And we also see autosomal DNA that's passed down over the generations, even back from a 5th great grandfather. But it's going to be very tricky. I should have looked up the number of 5th great grandparents you have. But you've got 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 greats, 16 great greats, and it doubles at every generation. And I suppose if it's a father and not just a grandparent, a grandfather that is, you can divide that number by 2, but it's still pretty big. Oops. And I think back in time also, people did not find their mates online, right? They found them from the neighborhood. So now you've got situations where kind of all, when you go back in time, those ancestors further up the line come from the same area. So you've got the same surnames and the same birth towns, and it gets trickier and trickier to do. And I would just say, I've never done that. I've accomplished a 3rd great grandparent through using DNA plus trees, and ultimately records, other records, non-DNA records.
I've done 5th great. I've gone back that far, but it was Y-DNA plus records. It would not have been solved with Y-DNA alone, and it would not have been solved with paper genealogy alone. We really had to have the 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up.
Okay. So if I'm an autosomal match to a person, am I only a match to the name I'm looking for, or also for any other surname that we may have in common to both of us? And I don't know if the person is watching. If so, please feel free to clarify. And what I would say is, if you have a DNA match, it could be from, a common surname. So you might have a line in common, and it could be a relatively common surname. So let's say Jones. Jones in specific communities. Jones is not going to be a common surname if your family's from Africa or from Italy and so on. But if we're talking about peoples who tend to have that surname. And so could you put the question back up?
Sure.
It's a little unclear.
There we go.
I'm a little bit confused about it, but I think I would consider all the different possible ways that you might be related to them. And one of the ways you do that is you look at your shared matches. So let's say there are these 3 surnames you have in common, the one you're researching, and then the 2 others that you have in common. But if you look at your, who are the matches that are shared matches, that might tell you the one, of those 3 surnames, it might tell you, oh, these matches are grouping with my Jones matches, and not the Smiths and not the Johnsons. So I would look at that. I would look at who are your shared matches, and not just look at people individually at their tree alone.
Good advice. Okay. The next one is actually, it was super long. So guys, this is a 2-part or two screens. So let's let Mary get a sip of water. You'd be surprised how drying it is doing these things, right?
Yeah, I know. I thought it was totally fine.
Oh, no, you're fine. No, just so I always have a drink, and I always have cough drops sitting next to me.
Yep.
When I'm on here. So yeah. Listen, thanks for doing live streams, guys.
Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting. Our great-great-grandfather, Henry Harrington, came to PEI, so that's Prince Edward Island, in 1839 or 1840 from Ireland via Newfoundland. Or do you say Newfoundland?
Newfoundland, I think, but I don't know.
Okay, also in Canada. After doing 4 DNA tests and joining Ancestry, we are no closer to finding him.
Okay. And then here's the next part of it.
Okay. So we don't have info on exactly where in Ireland. So we thought it to be County Cork he came from, or info on his family. We only know he was Protestant and educated. And this reminded me of a project I worked on where somebody was looking for their mother's birth father, and they were getting all of these matches to people in Prince Edward Island. And there is a legacy family tree webinar talk that I watched on the records and databases for PEI, Prince Edward Island. And that had some websites that I was not familiar with that gave me some more places to search. So they were, in general, they were government websites that, you know, weren't accessible from Ancestry, but were free. And they also had websites to churches where the churches were keeping track of things like marriages and births. So I highly recommend looking at this webinar. Let's see, there was one other thing I was thinking. Oh, I know. I Googled this man, Mr. Harrington. And do you have that one?
No, I don't.
Mr.
Do you have a screen share or?
Let me see. I think I can go to it from Messenger.
Okay.
Okay. So this was fun. I just typed in Henry. I typed in his name. So let me go back and share this.
Always amazing what a good Google search will do.
I know, look at this. And this, you know, the person asking this question, I think it's Joyce. She probably has seen this, but I Googled the man's name, Henry Harrington, PEI, and maybe one other thing, but it might have just been that. And this has a really nice description about Henry and his wife. And it lines up with what this person was saying, that he likely came from County Cork, Ireland, and that he died in PEI. One of the resources that I came across, and it probably isn't relevant for this, but I was researching the family name McLeod, and they had come to PEI via these Irish islands. And they went from one island to another island. And the book was about them, but at the back of the book were cemetery listings showing everybody. So not just the McLeods, but everybody in the community, church by church or cemetery by cemetery. And it was interesting because it was a mix of Protestants and Catholics in these cemeteries. And I could see ancestors of some of the DNA matches. So that was really interesting. But it goes on to talk about him, that he's buried here in Irishtown. You know, so it's these things that are out there, including those really important resources that are shared in that Legacy Family Tree webinar. talk on PEI. So I think, so there's that, right? There are the PEI resources. And then also for the Irish question about where did he come from? Did he really come from Cork? There are the maps, the online maps that are for Ireland, and they are surname maps. And they'll show you whether specific surnames existed in different places. So it starts out at the county level, and then you can drill down to the parish level. And Harrington, I thought maybe wasn't super common for Ireland. Maybe it is. It just doesn't seem. If you would have said to me what kind of surname is Harrington, I would have probably been stuck. Like, anyway. So there's that. And then also, if there's somebody on that male line, if they could do Y DNA testing, and in particular, the big Y testing. And Lisa and I talked about this a couple of months ago, where I helped somebody whose surname is Cox. Again, it doesn't sound like an Irish surname. It sounds like an English surname. But the Coxes came from Ireland. And the brother had done Y DNA testing and big Y. And then other members of the Cox family, so distant cousins in the United States, had done the big Y. And they had also done the Y111 testing. And on the Y111 testing, it looked like she had a closest match and a next closest match. And those two flipped when it came to the big Y.
That's right.
And that was super important. And it was that combination of that big Y test result, along with some autosomal matches to herself and her brother, that led me to a specific parish. And it was exciting, and she's working on the paper end of that. But that, I think, with Irish questions, it can be really promising, because so many people want to know where their Irish ancestors came from, and so many people have done big Y DNA testing. And I know that's expensive, but somebody in the comments section on that video just recently said to me in the comments, well, yeah, it's an expensive test, but think of all the time and money that would have been spent trying to find the connection to that Y111 test. The guy that was the closest match on Y111, when in fact it was the man that was the second closest on the Y111, who turned out to be the closest match at the big Y.
Yeah, I agree.
So that was a really good point.
Yeah, and you can go back. It's on the YouTube channel as well. The big Y, the video we did on big Y. So
yeah, I think we've done two, but this was the first one.
Yeah. All right. We've got two more questions. So here's one here.
Okay. Many second to third cousin matches on Ancestry with no trees or no answering messages. Matches share the same surname as one of the matches for my brother's Y DNA. So it sounds like pretty close matches. There are 12 matches who are exact or 1 to 2 steps away from my brother at the Y67. So the 67 markers were checked, and they've got exact and 1 to 2 mismatch. And then how to move forward. So this is interesting. It looks like they, the first place to start would to be to see if those people have that surname that the brother is matching, and in their trees. But then you say, but wait, Mary, they don't have trees. And then I would say you need to build their trees. So on autosomal DNA, they might have that surname someplace in their tree that's not on their Y line. So it could be Mr. Jackson, and he's got that surname that popped up in the brother's Y-DNA test on his mother's side of the tree, because you're sharing autosomal DNA with those people. And then, it goes back to what we said in the beginning about building people's trees. I tend to build them within my tree. They're just branches that aren't connected to my tree, until I figure out how they're connected.
Right.
Some people do them in separate trees, separate research trees. So you can do that also. I would put everybody in one. If you're going to do that separate tree, I wouldn't do like 10 separate trees. I would do one tree, name it that's the name of that surname, and call it the research tree, and go from there.
Yeah.
Because you're probably going to be able to connect those people together. And the chances are you're not going to be able to build trees for all of them, but building trees for some of them will hopefully shed light, and you'll be able to see how they're interrelated, which is really exciting when that happens. And then hopefully that surname pops out in their trees, and now you can connect them together through that surname.
Yeah, I agree. All right, here's one. This one's This one's going to take up 2 screens, guys.
Okay. DNA matches have proven the sons. Okay, I think this is part 2. This is part 2.
Oh, that's part 2?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. No, part 1. Hang on. Bear with us, guys. Hang on, let me see if I can find, because I had to reword it just a wee bit. All right. Are you looking at the spreadsheet, Mary? It's the last. This is the one from Joyce.
Sure. Yep.
And I had to reword it a little bit.
So it starts out, I have access to the DNA test of a first cousin once removed.
Oh, I really am in the wrong spot then. Hang on, guys. Oh, dear. Hang on.
Line 54.
Yes. Oh, dear. Okay, guys. Nothing like luck. Obviously, I've messed up. So hang on 1 second, guys.
A lot of
Let me just take that off and start over again here. So line 54. All right, let's see. Do you want to just read that? Do you want to just read that from the spreadsheet? Because it's too long. Sure. It is too long to pop into this.
Sure. It says, I have access to the DNA of a first cousin once removed, who is the great-granddaughter of our common ancestor, Caroline Elizabeth Stone, born 1822. Little is known about Caroline, including whether or not Stone was her surname. She had 3 out-of-wedlock children, 2 boys and a girl. The boys are half-brothers, and nothing further has been found on the daughter. Okay.
I have no idea how I messed that up, guys. I'm still trying to figure
out.
I remember looking at the question. I'm like, where's the rest of it? All right.
Do you want to pop up that?
I can work on it. If you want to start answering, I'll work on it.
Okay. Well, the second part of the question, and this is a pretty long question. So in the end, let's see. In the end.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So in the end, I have a little diagram I'll share with y'all. And maybe I'll just go ahead right now and start sharing.
Okay. While you're working on that, I'll work on this. Let's see if this works.
All right. So this part is what I just read, and it's pretty complicated. I had to diagram it out. The second part of the question says, DNA matches have proven the sons Robert Lafayette Hoke and James Henry Broome are indeed related to each other. Can the common DNA matches between the families of these two brothers be used to find the parents of Caroline Elizabeth Stone? So these would be the second great grandparents of the person's first cousin once removed. And this is me diagramming out things. This is the question asker. And Caroline is here. And I think it was intended that she was born in 1922 as opposed to 1822. Because if somebody's a first cousin once removed, that means that one of your grandparents is the other's great-grandparents. And it sounded like this match, who was a first cousin once removed, that Caroline was her great-grandparent, which means the question asker must have Caroline as a grandmother, thereby making the two first cousins once removed to each other. And I filled in the intervening parent here, which I assume is one of those half-brothers. So this is a half-brother to this half-brother. And that in this instance for the match, then there's also a parent inserted. So this is a pedigree going from Joyce, her parent, which must be the half-brother father, to Caroline. And then this is the person, the first cousin once removed, whose DNA she controls, who's got a parent. And then it goes to a grandparent, who's a half-brother to this guy, to Caroline, who's her great-grandmother. And then, of course, the question is, what about Caroline's parents? You know, can we use the results from these two DNA tests and maybe related tests to determine who Caroline's parents are?
Hey, Mary, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
So Joyce just chimed in. She said, no, she was born in 1822. It's the great-grandfather Robert had two wives.
Okay, so then Joyce, okay, all right, well, that's fine. So Joyce's grandmother was born in 1822?
No, Caroline.
But isn't Caroline, I must have something wrong then. Caroline's not her grandmother?
No, it's her great-grandmother. Wait a minute. First cousin, first. Joyce, let us know. Clarify that relationship to Caroline, if you can. So, because the question says, first cousin once removed, who is the great-granddaughter of a common ancestor, Caroline Elizabeth Stone. So she doesn't indicate whether it's what the relationship is.
Right,
so Joyce says first cousin once removed is a first cousin to her mother. So it's her mother.
And where do the half brothers come in then?
Not so sure on that one. Hang on, let's see.
Yeah, and
Caroline's her great-grandmother. Caroline's her second great-grandmother.
okay, I think we need to find out more about this and follow up either individually with Joyce or because I also have a question about the common matches between the families. So I'm assuming that is Caroline's one son versus her other son, and that the first cousin once removed is descends from one son versus Joyce descending from the other son. Okay. But maybe we need to clarify.
Joyce, we'll follow up with you on that and clarify that just a bit. So afterwards, so we'll reach out to you on that and get that kind of clarified for you. Sorry about that, but we can see what we can do to sort things out. Okay, so Mary, that was the last question, but we had one in the chat, and I think that's about all we have time for. Catherine said, and this was back when we were talking about, I think, some of the endogamy stuff. She said, if a pedigree collapse is farther back from like the second great grandparents back to the fifth great grandparents, would that cause less change in DNA amounts than with closer generations? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. The answer is yes. So pedigree collapse is different than endogamy. Endogamy is where people intermarry over hundreds of years. And like I said, examples are people of the Jewish faith, Quakers, people living on islands, people living on PEI, and small Irish islands off the coast of Ireland. Places like that where you can only marry people around you. Or maybe the customs say you can only marry within your faith. And in contrast, pedigree collapse is over a smaller amount of time. It could just be you've got double first cousins or double second cousins where two siblings from one family marry two siblings from another family. And when that happens, you get a doubling of the amount of DNA you would share. And if it's if I'm the daughter of a mother who had double first cousins, and her double first cousins shared the same amount of DNA with her as if they were half siblings. Mm. And that's pretty shocking, because you've just got that double dose coming in. And whereas if you looked at somebody's tree and they had, two, let's say, second great grandparents that are two places in their tree, since that DNA gets halved at every generation, then it's not going to have as big of a numeric impact, right? It's not going to be a doubling. And you can calculate the impact about how much more you would have. But it's not going to have as big of an impact on the numbers.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, guys, I think that's all the questions, and really it's all we have time for too. So, but thank you so much for joining us, guys. I really appreciate that. I hope you found this helpful. I know I did, Mary. I always, like I said, I say it over and over again. I always learn from you and pick up things for my own research as well. So thank you so much for coming and doing this with us each month.
Thank you.
So guys, feel free, if you're watching this on the replay, definitely you can chime in with comments. If you have comments below, we do monitor the comments later as well. And we look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you anyway next week. Mary will join me next month, and I look forward to seeing you next week here as well. So have a fantastic day, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.